I'm glad to welcome Lucy Guo back to the stage. Lucy co-founded Scale AI at the age of 21 years old. She now runs Passes, a content creator platform, and is a successful VC investor in her own right. She is the youngest self-made woman billionaire in the world. She's about as wealthy as Taylor Swift, and she's 5 years younger than Taylor Swift.
I think Taylor still might be more liquid.
That's probably true, but she might trade the 5 years for the liquidity. So can you just walk us through, you've started a couple very successful companies very young. What's your origin story? How do you become the wealthiest self-made woman billionaire in the world?
Yeah, I always think that everything is a combination of luck and hard work, but I do think I got the drive to be an entrepreneur pretty early on. Grew up with immigrant parents who really emphasized education and money. And I really just took in the money aspect because I wanted to buy things that I could not afford or I was not allowed to buy. For example, I was not allowed to skateboard or buy a whipstick, and I wanted to buy one. So I figured out how to make money on my own. It started off just like in the playground, selling Pokemon cards, colored pencils, anything I could find. And then I discovered the internet where I could have internet money that my parents could not take away from me as punishment. So that's when I started creating bots on Neopets, created my own virtual pet site, arcade game websites, like really everything that I could throw an ad on, essentially. And fast forward, went to hackathons.
First off, how old were you when you were doing all of these things?
I was in second grade when I was making the bots, and I started creating my own websites in around third grade, just off of WordPress, but literally sticking every single annoying ad on these websites. I remember I would submit these websites on a stumble upon, and just a bunch of different services to gain traffic on them. So I would get paid per impression. I got very clever around I think 5th and 6th grade, where I realized that because I wasn't allowed to watch TV, so I would watch TV shows on the internet. I started creating my own websites where I would search up popular TV show names like Pretty Little Liars, Vampire Diaries, etc. And I would just buy the domain name watchvampirediaries.net, and then I would find a trailer for an episode that didn't exist yet, and then Photoshop a play button on top, and then stick ads on the site and submit it to every streaming service possible. So people would, hit the website trying to find an episode that didn't exist, and I'd make money off of it.
And so what, before we move on to your incredibly successful career after, your very successful career as a child, is there any mindset or any lessons that you learned from those early hustles, that carried you forward in your, when you started Scale AI and even before?
Yeah, I think the main thing is the first is not everything is a risk. Things might feel risky, but it's not. So when I dropped out of college, I remember a lot of my peers, my family obviously, didn't agree with that decision. But in my head, I was okay, it's not really a risk because I'm not the most I lose is a few years, right? I can always go accept a job offer. I could go back to college, but your network is your net worth, and that's something I realized very early on too, where I believed that doing a TL fellowship would open doors for me because people would just be more willing to talk to me because I was a TL fellow. I kind of also learned this early on in high school where someone had just given me advice. Hey, if you email a VC, just send a cold email, they're more likely to respond to you because you're a kid, and everyone wants to help kids out. So that was true. I cold emailed VCs, and I would actually get responses. Versus if I weren't who I am today, and I cold emailed a VC, I don't know if I would get a response. Yeah. So I think those are probably and then optimizing for learning. So I think those are the 3 lessons that probably got me to where I am today. Because the second I got bored, I was known as someone that would job hop a lot, right? But for me, it was when I stopped learning and I felt I was no longer growing. Even though I was leaving millions of dollars behind, I felt it made sense to make my next career move because the knowledge I would be gaining would be valuable later on in life.
Mm-hmm. And so those three key lessons there, I'd love to run through all 3 of those. So the first one, it's not that much of a risk.
Yes.
A couple questions. One is, how responsive to that argument were your parents at the time? And do you have any advice for other people who might be in this room and have had similar conversations or thinking about having similar conversations maybe with their parents?
Yeah, so education gave my parents everything they had in life, so I fully understood that they felt like I was throwing away their sacrifices when choosing to drop out of college. That being said, I think that they didn't really realize how good my job offers were that I already had before leaving college. So they weren't, they weren't happy about it.
Yeah.
But and then nowadays they're like, oh, like there was a different path to success outside of like getting your college degree, and we understand that.
Yeah, and you'd also mentioned VCs being willing to answer a kid's email. I'd love to hear a little bit about the ways that you think youth can be an advantage rather than a disadvantage.
I mean, I think youth is an advantage in many ways. As a kid, you have so much free time nowadays, right? So like if you have that free time, like spend some of it learning about technology in the future. I think that you have less responsibilities. For example, like when you have a family and you have kids, you just have less time to experiment, and spending a few years not making as much is actually meaningful because you have to support that family, versus like as a kid, you don't really need any resources. Like if you're a kid, literally a kid, you're living at home with your parents. But if you're in your early 20s, like I was couch surfing and drinking Soylent and figuring out how to have free food through all these VC sponsored apps. It was great, actually. Yeah. I was literally living for free, and it was fine. Like I was fine couch surfing. I didn't need a bed. Like I didn't need a house, a family. And then I think if you're in college specifically, it is the best time to find your future hires and your future co-founders, because there's no time there's no other time in your entire life where you're going to be in such a dense network of intelligent people that all want to be friends with you because they have no friends, right? Like quite literally, when you go from high school to college, it's the only period in your life where everyone is starting a new life and no one has any friends, so everyone's willing to get to know you.
Yeah. Okay. And then it's easy to say you don't have a lot to lose. You don't have a lot of money to lose. You don't have a lot of time to lose. Worst case, you lose a couple of years. I think when you're in that moment, and I think probably a lot of people out here are probably somewhere in that moment, it doesn't feel that way. A lot of the time, you feel like maybe anxious to get things going now. You do feel like you need to make money now. So do you have any advice for how to have the fortitude, I guess, to actually go and take that risk?
I mean, the way I've always thought about things is if it's not life-changing, then, like, if I'm not leaving life-changing money behind on the table, then it just makes sense to, go do the next thing. And again, like, it's optimizing for learning, because even if I don't make life-changing money with my next endeavor, I will have that knowledge that'll be valuable in the future, and I'll always be able to get that job back. Like, if you're a high performer, your job is still there. Like, your company will very happily take you back, right? So just knowledge is, I think, just the key to success. So if you think you're going to learn more doing another endeavor pursuit, it makes more sense in the long term. Like, it's an investment.
And you dropped out of school. You're studying computer science to become a Teal Fellow. But you had taken, before you co-founded Scale AI, you'd taken a couple jobs in Silicon Valley, right? You had worked at Quora, you'd worked at Snap. So how important do you think it was, I guess, all of these different educational experiences that you had? You learned all these things growing up. You learned some stuff in college while you were there. Then you took these jobs all before you went to co-found a company. What do you think was the most important or most instructive, and do you think that doing all of those things made you more well-rounded, or do you think you could have skipped college altogether, or you needed to go? Or
Yeah, so I actually don't think I could have skipped college altogether, and I think that was the most important for me, because that was where I gained that network of people that I ended up hiring as my first hires, because they're you're this crazy kid, and you may have raised funding, but you're like, hey, you should not take millions of dollars that other companies are offering you and come work for me. And the only people that are going to do that are people that have worked with you and believe in you and got close to you. And those happen to just be the people I went to college with. So I actually suggest everyone do college for 1 to 2 years, because of what I said before, which is that it's the only time in your life that you're going to meet highly intelligent people that all really want to be your friend. Mm-hmm. And then I think that working at Quora and Snap, because they were two such different companies in the way they operated, did helped me understand how I would want to operate my company. So for example, at Quora, they basically ran a philosophy that the product was absolutely perfect, and all they needed to do was A/B test every single part of the funnel and optimize. So for example, like let's A/B test and like get more signups. Then we need to A/B test certain features to get more questions asked, then more answers. And as the flywheel goes, the company grows. Versus at Snap, A/B test wasn't really a thing. It was just like all product innovation. Like I remember being shocked the first day I walked in because I saw how Evan was trying to compete with Google, compete with Amazon, et cetera. And these are things that I would have never imagined Snap to really be. So he was much more of a visionary founder, but I do think the right answer is like being in the middle, because you do need to optimize certain parts of the funnel. Like I learned that like, changing one word on a sign up page can affect conversions by 30%, which is absolutely crazy to me still to this day. And that does have a drastic effect on your numbers, but also it's important to like really think big and be a visionary.
Mm-hmm. And so, you co-found Scale AI 2016, sort of, feels like a forever ago in the in the world of, AI. Pretty famously had a falling out with your co-founder and left, after a couple of years. What lessons can we all draw from that experience? What did you learn, and what might others learn, in terms of, co-founding a company with somebody, and sometimes things don't go according to plan?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that if you can't be your co-founder's biggest cheerleader, it's probably not great to be their co-founder, just because when like things go wrong in a company and like, it's always going to be a roller coaster and you guys can't align on a decision, if you're going to be bitter about it, like you're going to have a falling out. Like you guys are going to butt heads. But at the end of the day, when like other people at the company are looking at like, I guess like the decisions the company is making, and you can't stand beside your co-founder, even if you have disagreements, that's just going to cause issues. Like you have to be your co-founder's biggest cheerleader. Mm-hmm.
And so just moving along, so I'd love to talk about passes. Could you just walk us through sort of what it is? And what I'd really love to hear about is, what do you see going on in the creator economy right now, and what are the opportunities that are out there for people who are looking to be creators?
Yeah, so we're building infrastructure to help creators monetize their brand, and this really became inspired due to the fact that like I saw creators really building these like unicorn companies. So Mr. Beast with Feastables, that's actually the main reason his net worth is so high. Logan Paul with Prime, Jake Paul with W and Better, etc. And I think we're going through a phase right now, like after Kylie built her lipstick brand, creators are realizing that they are the brand, right? I think that a lot of founders are also realizing and willing to give up double-digit percentage equity because they see that with creators, they no longer need to spend money on customer acquisition costs because the creators are able to convert. So what I see the future being is creators really like being businesses. I don't necessarily see creators being, like the CEO though. Like I think that what's going to happen is operators are going to partner with creators and they're going to act as like chief creative officers and really do the marketing behind a brand and offer, creative inputs. But I think a lot of creators are starting their own venture funds. They're like grabbing equity into companies, et cetera. And this is going to be the trend going forward because everyone wants to build generational wealth, which I think is why creators are so interested in tech right now, because they're seeing like this is how a lot of new money is being built.
Mm-hmm. And so, I would love to, Randall had said earlier today that there are probably several billionaires, future billionaires, out in the crowd today. You managed to hit the milestone at a very early age. At the time you had said to Forbes that you don't think about it very much, and it's not very liquid. Has your perspective on any of that changed? I mean, what's your reaction, I guess, to being the world's youngest self-made billionaire?
My life's pretty much the same. I'm still waking up at 5:30 a.m., going to Barry's, going to work. Like we work in the office every single day of the week, so I just go to work, then go home. You're very famously very frugal. Trying to get a deal on Uber Eats or something like that. Is there a point where
you can relax on that, or do you think that that's a mindset that everybody should always have?
I mean, I would say relax on it, but I'm Asian, so it's almost just like a game, right? Like, I get excited getting deals and free things. I really like free things.
All right, and so, I guess in closing, what's the biggest takeaway from your short but very high journey, I guess, to success that everybody else can take away? If there's one thing that you think people could take away from your story, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's optimized for learning and always be willing to help people out because everyone that you help out unselfishly, I do think karma is a real thing. It comes back at you. And when you are successful, I think you should reinvest into the ecosystem. So nowadays, I'm literally just trying to find all my favorite products and people that I just believe in and reinvest in them. Because I remember what it was like, first starting out, and I had all these people just help me with no questions asked, and I don't think I would be here today without doing that. Oh, and then I would say just ask for things. I think people are too scared to ask. And I mean you will get a yes most likely no matter what. People are going to there's going to be someone willing to give their time. There's going to be someone that's going to give you money. And I think that people are too scared of rejection, but you just have to think a no is okay, whatever. You get a no, right? What's the worst thing that happens? It hurts your ego a little bit, but the first yes you guess is going to change your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for starting your DJ career here at the Forbes
Yeah.
Summit. We appreciate it.
I know. I'm excited. Thank you for letting me DJ here.